This year I wanted to make some of my wrapped gifts extra special, so I'm using Redesign with Prima molds and amazing casting resin from alumilite to add some ornaments to my gift wrapping. I'm mixing up my amazing casting resin by mixing equal parts of A and B and stirring them together in a silicone cup, and then I'm going to slowly pour them into my mold. This is the brand new pinecone dolls mold from Redesign with Prima, and it turns out way cuter than I even expected. I want to make each of my packages unique by using a different mold on each one, and so for this one I mixed up a little bit of my casting resin and I'm pouring it into the vintage opulence bow mold. I have a plan for each one of these molds to decorate each one a little bit differently. They're going to be unique to the person I'm giving the gift to. The last mold that I'm going to use is the Jolly Jumper mold, and I'm pouring my amazing casting resin into this. This has some really fine details in it, so I'm pouring really slowly and letting the liquid find the antlers and the toes and all the details on this mold. I let these dry for about 10 minutes and then I can come back and they've turned fully white and I can pop them right out of my mold. You can see on this Pinecone Dolls mold, it also has an ornament hook at the top. This is going to be perfect. All of these molds have really intricate details, but it's really hard to see all of it on just the white backdrop of the resin. So I'm going to decorate these and it's going to make all of those details really pop. This Pinecone Dolls mold in particular has such a sweet face on it. I didn't realize how much I would love it until I got it fully decorated. Next, I'm going to pop out my vintage opulence bow mold. These are so cute, especially for the holidays. I pictured this one perfect for gift wrapping. But I also want to create some of these bows in a gold color, and so I'm going to use some of my Redesign with Prima mica powder, and I'm going to dust the mold just using a small artist brush, making sure that I cover the inside and the bottom of the silicone. I used just enough mica powder to dust the inside of that mold. Any excess will just end up floating in my resin, so really you don't need to use any more than what's required. Once the entire mold is covered in the gold mica powder, I'm going to mix up my amazing casting resin again by mixing equal parts of A and B, and then I'm going to stir those for roughly 30 seconds. Nothing will happen to the resin as long as they're stored in separate containers, but once you join them together in one cup, that chemical reaction is going to start and I'll need to move quickly. If you're just starting out using amazing casting resin, I recommend mixing in small batches and just pouring one mold at a time. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and do both of these golden bows. This mold has a lot of detail, so I'm just using a popsicle stick to help that liquid find all of the edges of the mold. Once I've got this fully covered, I set it aside for about 10 minutes and I come back and here's what I've got. That casting resin has turned white and the underside where I dusted the mold has picked up all of that mica powder and turned these to gold. That mica powder is fully cured into the resin and so it won't wipe off at all. This is a super easy way to make colored castings without having to use paint, but I am going to add some paint to some of my other designs. I start out by giving them a coat of spray primer. For this first painted mold, I'm going to use Wisel paint, and this color is called Siren Song, and I chose this because it's a color that appears in the wrapping paper that I plan to put this bow on. I used 2 coats of my paint to fully cover that resin after the coat of primer, and I also made sure to flip these over and color the back so they look finished. I'm just applying my paint using a small artist brush and a dabbing motion, and the reason I'm using that dabbing motion is because this bow has a lot of details into it and I want to make sure to get down into those crevices. While my paint is drying, I have a special plan for the Pinecone Dolls mold, and that is I want to make them look like wood. So I'm using Redesign, which is a liquid wood product that you can paint on like a paint, but it's going to dry and it is fully stainable like a wood. Over my coat of primer, I'm going to brush on 2 coats of my Redesign, letting each coat dry in between. Redesign comes in several different colors. I chose a light wood color because I want to add some darker wood details on this. You'll see that next step later, but you can also choose to do this in any wood color you like. Now that I've shown you 3 different ways you can color your molds using the liquid wood, a paint, and also with mica powder, I'm now going to show you some different ways you can decorate them. For this colored mold that we made using the mica powder, I'm going to dust over the top of it using some decor wax. This is from Art Alchemy and the color is called Brushed Iron. These are also available from Redesign with Prima. I'm just using an artist brush and I'm digging that decor wax into all the crevices of this bow to go right over the top of that gold. The silver is going to add some nice contrast. Once my bow is fully covered in the silver wax, I'm just taking a rag and I'm buffing it away, and this is going to expose some of the gold underneath and just leave that silver down in the crevices. Now I'm going to use a little bit of black artisan powder. This is also available from Redesign with Prima, and I'm just dusting it into some of the crevices. That's going to add a little bit of shadowing. The powder will cure into the wax, and that's going to make it a permanent part of my mold, but I also chose to go ahead and spray a little bit of clear acrylic over the top of these to finish it off. For the bow that I painted blue, I'm going to decorate this one using a little bit of Redesign with Prima decor wax, and this color is called Eternal. This is a beautiful classic gold that I use all of the time. It's a great staple to have in your stash. I'm applying the decor wax into the crevices of the bow. This is really going to emphasize it. You can see how it looks a little bit flat with just the solid color blue backdrop, but once I add that gold over top and then I'm going to smudge it out on the edges, it just kind of makes the bow look like it has some dimension. I'm starting at the center of my bow and pulling the brush outward to the outer edges using kind of a sweeping motion and letting that wax fade as it goes towards those outer edges. I also gave this one a coat of a clear acrylic spray just from the hardware store when I was done, and that's going to make this permanent so that this bow can be used over and over again. It also added a little bit of sheen and sealed off my matte paint. And now it's time to decorate these adorable pinecone dolls. This one ends up being my favorite of all, I think. So I'm just using a little bit of gel stain. This is from General Finishes. I'm brushing it on using a small artist brush, and I'm making sure to dig it into all those crevices. I'm doing this after my 2 coats of Retique It liquid wood is dry over the top of my mold. And then I'm just going to use a shop towel and wipe back that wood stain, and you can see how it's going to stain the Retique It and just sink a little bit of dark stain into the crevices. This has been a really fun project, you guys. I hope you enjoyed all these different ways that you can decorate your molds using mica powders, waxes, paints, wood stains, and liquid wood. I added each one of these to the top of a different colored wrapping, and you can see how personalized they are, and then along with my gift, it also gives them a nice ornament that they can save to use year after year. You can find links for everything I used in this video in the description for this post. Make sure to check out all of these new molds from Redesign with Prima available now. You can find more Brush by Brandy on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube, and on my website at brushbybrandy.com. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click that subscribe button.